professor, you're a research scientist, and you're a public communicator of science. Could you tell folks where you're located and what you're doing there, just as a frame up?
Myself.
Yeah, I like that better. I think that's better.
Okay. I'm located at Arizona State University. Yes.
There's a big Arizona theme
I moved
here
there
today.
because, in fact, I was recruited there by Michael Krauss because I think it is the most exciting educational institution of higher education in the country. And I run in a program there called the Origins Project, which looks at everything from the origins of the universe to the origins of consciousness, most recently an event on the origins of violence, and run also a research program in cosmology and particle physics. And yeah, that's primarily what I do there. I have some other hats, too. Yeah, I've written some books, yeah.
In fact, yeah, but that reminds me that I think the first book I read of yours was The Physics of Star Trek, which was an interesting way, I thought, to try to engage the public with
when you were
physics.
Young and I wasn't.
Well, okay. I still had, in fact, the first time I think I sat down with you, Lawrence, I brought my hardcover copy of that. And
I liked you immediately.
Yeah. So I said, Dr. Krauss, what a pleasure to, and he's like, yeah, Lawrence. I said, what a pleasure to meet you. Could you please sign my book? And a thing I love about a physicist always is the absolute evidence-based honesty. He said, he's about to sign it. He goes, of course, if I personalize this, it will reduce its value.
Yes.
True story.
Absolutely. And people, yeah, that's right. I also tell people that buying the book is much more important than reading it. Anyway, okay, we should talk about something.
So we should talk about, well, let's start with the failure. So I think it was actually 2011 when we were in a room together, and it might have been around one of Michael Krauss' conversations that he even does in New York, and we were talking about inspiring learners, and you said something rather that's in the context of what we just heard, maybe not so provocative, but for me at the time, it was very provocative. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to figure out if you asked me to do this because I'm a failure or because I was, but we, at the time, or far earlier, when I was chair of the physics department at Case Western years ago, we created a program called a new master's degree in physics entrepreneurship, which at the time the head of our business school called an oxymoron. Which meant, and he later became president of a major university, which proves that you can become president of a major university without understanding education, because because scientists by nature and most researchers are entrepreneurs in their own way. In any case, what we did when we started that program was we invited scientists who had become entrepreneurs to do a seminar for us for a few years so we could figure out what we should be teaching that we weren't teaching. And universally, what came back was we weren't teaching students how to fail. We really do all kids a disservice in some sense by giving the illusion that all problems are solvable. We provide from the time they're kids, we give them problem sets or assignments where, of course, the answers are well defined. And it goes all the way up to PhDs when we give students PhD projects that are in principle doable. But of course, the minute you're outside of that environment in the real world, no problems are exactly solvable, and it's most noticeable, as a number of people brought up here, in entrepreneurship, that most entrepreneurs will fail a few times, and the question is, how do they learn from that? The real aspect of learning is to find out, well, this problem may not be solvable, but how can I find a problem that might be solvable? And that aspect of removing oneself from the well-defined results or answers to the process of getting there is what's important. And I in that regard, people talk about failure here, and I'm not talking about it as not succeeding on the given problem, but not thinking about the results as what's important as the process. And in teaching, and I just did a big think video where I talked about this, that we should really be teaching questions more than answers. That's the reason I run the Origins Project, is it's really about fundamental questions. Because that's what gets kids excited. That's what everyone's excited about is questions. And the process of how to find answers is important. And so the other aspect that I would say is important in sort of teaching failure or learning failure is that teachers and parents need to be far more willing to say, I don't know. it's a lot easier for teachers who are well prepared. In that sense, I agree with Craig about what he said about teachers knowing their stuff, because if you're not comfortable with the material, you're not comfortable with saying you don't know. You adhere to the curriculum because you're not comfortable with departing from the curriculum. And so you have to be comfortable with the material, and then you're comfortable with saying, I don't know. And I don't know, but how can we find out? And more parents should say that. And so that aspect, I think, is of vital importance when it comes to teaching. Anyway.